Welcome to Cord Cutting This Week, episode number 57, the show where I give you my opinion on some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting. Now, this is my opinion. If you want to learn more about these stories, come up with your own opinions. Let me know what you think I got right, what I got wrong. Check the show notes down below. I'll have a link to each story I covered today. First up, though, hey, a quick reminder, if you're watching this right after it launches, until Monday, January 7th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, you have until then to enter our giveaway for our 2018 Roku Ultra with the new JBL headphones and a $100 Netflix gift card. Link in the show notes. Don't forget to enter. Multiple options to enter. The more you do, the more entries you get. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's dive into the news from the past week. Right off the bat, Spectrum streaming service is finally available on the Apple TV. So for some years now, Spectrum has been available on Roku for cable subscribers. About a year-ish, a little over a year, they've had some streaming packages. If you're a Spectrum Internet customer, you can also get Spectrum's streaming packages, which includes their a la carte one, $21.99, gets you 10 channels of music, or a bunch of music channels, gets you your locals, and then 10 channels you want to pick from, which can be ESPN, Hallmark, NFL Network, all kinds of stuff you get to pick from this list. Couple downsides, there is some fees, like broadcast TV fees are included with, or on top of that, I should say. You also don't have a DVR, and it had pretty much been limited to Roku. Now Apple TV supports it, so Apple TV owners can take advantage of this deal. And again, you need to have Spectrum's internet. Now, it's much more of a cable package in some ways, but it is a, quote, streaming package. I know a lot of cord cutters who like this. It's a great option. It's a first real step towards a la carte packages. I know a lot of people in the industry were kind of like, how is Spectrum doing this? But they've been doing it for over a year now. And it's not a bad deal. You can even get locals, including PBS, which is one of the really hard ones out there to get. Not a lot of companies offer PBS with their streaming services. So that's a pretty cool feature there. So if you're an Apple TV owner, check out Spectrum's new service if you have Spectrum's internet too. Now, it also works with traditional cable packages. One of the cool features here is it doesn't require a login. So Apple announced this feature earlier this year called Zero Sign-In. And basically what it does, Spectrum has turned over or allowed a database merger basically where Apple can say, hey, you're coming from this IP address, and that IP address is signed to this account, so we're just going to auto log you in to their Spectrum streaming app, which is pretty cool. Now, if you use a VPN or something that changes your IP address, you won't be able to take advantage of that. But it's all they're doing is say, hey, this IP address is tied to this account, which gets access to this content. And that's what Apple's doing. Look for other people to do it. Now, the tough part about this is it's not a lot of cord cutting services can take advantage of that because your internet and your cord cutting service are two different companies. Now, AT&T may be able to sometime down the road do this with DirecTV Now or one of their other streaming services, Watch TV and on. So keep an eye out for that to maybe roll out to a few others, but I wouldn't expect to see like YouTube TV to do it, except for maybe Google fiber areas, because you need to have both the internet and the service from the same company. All right, let's keep moving along. A lot of news to cover today. Local ABC stations and others probably have new owners. So this week, a ton of transfers of ABC, Fox, CBS, and NBC owners have changed hands. Gray TV, I guess that's how you say it, Gray Media, has completed the purchase of Raycom Media. Part of that deal is they had to sell off some stations that in markets where they would get too much market share. Some of those went to Scripps owned networks, and now Scripps buying a bunch. Gray's getting more. Scripps is in the process of buying more. A bunch of TV stations are switching hands. So it's very possible that one of your local stations in your market has a new owner this week. That happened in my area. Two different stations went from Raycom to Scripps, and I think Gary bought, and then one of the stations went there, one of the stations went to Gary. So it is a lot of changing of hands happening. Now, what does this mean for you? Right off the bat, not a lot. So yes, your new, your ABC, Fox, whatever, may have a new owner. In the short term, everything's going to stay the same. Of course, you're going to get the same programs. You may notice, like at the end of your local news, instead of saying Raycom, it may say Gray, or it may say Scripps at the end of it. Going down the road, though, for instance, my local ABC sold. and my local ABC with Raycom was part of like News On, and it had an app on the Fire TV. Now that they're part of Scripps, that deal may be renegotiated. The app on the Fire TV and Roku may be redone to be the one that it comes from Scripps, because that app was part of a big deal with Raycom, where all the Raycom stations had these apps on the Fire TV, I think Apple TV too, and Roku. Now that deal has to be restruck and redone. So maybe a few months ago, you know, they typically have overlap. So hey, you sold 6 months or whatever, you can continue to use these existing contracts. So maybe this summer you may start seeing like, hey, the app on my phone for my local TV station's changing, or hey, the local news looks a little different, right? They're redoing the sets, maybe the graphics. They're, you know, the deals where you they show national news feeds from like CNN sometimes has a lot of these deals that may be changing. I wouldn't expect anything big coming from that. One thing I would expect though is the sub channels. Now often those sub channels are owned by the big parent company, so you may see some of your sub channels shifting around. I know in my area this week we launched 4 new ones. I'm not part of the deal, it was from other stations in my area. But we now get MeTV. There was a MeTV affiliate down the road. It was on a weak signal, kind of hard to get. They moved it. The CW got its own parent channel now, so they're in HD, and a bunch of sub channels. The CBS now added a bunch of sub channels under that one. So keep an eye out for new sub channels. Keep an eye out for probably some new apps coming, some changes and that kind of stuff. I had that happen in my hometown back in Michigan when the station switched. And like a year later, they're like, hey, if you have our app, it's going to stop working. You're going to have to download a new version of the app. Minor inconvenience, but that's something that could probably happen with this. All right, so moving on now, we covered some housekeeping with the local stations changing. You can get a free month of YouTube TV with every new Roku. And I wanted to talk about this in general, but first let me give you some of the details here. If you buy a new Roku between now and I believe March 3rd, you are eligible for a free month of YouTube TV and other deals. Now, there's a catch though. You need to claim it during the setup. So if you complete your setup process during that time, and you didn't claim the deal during that setup, so when you log into Roku, you enter that little code, and it asks you to, you know, do a few steps to say, hey, where are you going to put this in your house? You say like bedroom or something. One of those things would be like, hey, claim these deals. Here's some deals, like a free month of Amazon. Netflix is often on there. I'm not sure if it is right now. And more Sling TV, you can get a $45 Sling TV credit right now too. So whenever you buy a streaming player, during the setup process, take a little time, because pretty much all these do it. I don't think Apple TV has deals like this. Google has had some in the past. Amazon has had similar deals in the past too along this lines. Pay attention during that setup, because you never know if you're going to get new deals. Have you got one of these deals? I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever bought a Roku, bought a Fire TV, etc., and taken advantage of these deals? Well, what deals did you get? I've got some free Netflix in the past. Now, they're often only for new customers, so existing customers can't take advantage of this. But, you know, with Sling and YouTube offering basically free months, it's not a bad option to say, hey, let's try out the other. Maybe we'll like it better, maybe not, but it's free. So keep that in mind. But leave me a comment. Let me know what you signed up for. Last story of the day is Sling TV related. Hey, Sling TV is rolling out a brand new app. Now, a lot of the user interfaces are the same. One of the big differences here is the program guide and the fact that they're giving you more control over the My TV section, which I'll get to in a minute. Sling TV is rolling out a new program guide that looks a lot more like a traditional cable guide. And now, Sling has had a grid guide for a while, but they've refreshed it now in what I feel like looked a lot like cable ones back when I had cable. So it's got the top 1/3 will show you wherever you're hovering over in the guide, description, when it's on, what network, and the like. Has a little time roll. You can just scroll forward a few days into the future, I believe. Don't count me in the time frame. I don't have it in front of me, but it does allow you a more traditional guide there. And I find that very interesting. So I understand originally when Sling and everybody launched, they were like, we're going to reinvent TV, right? And you can still see the user interface Sling had. Hulu did that a lot. A lot of places did that, where we're like, we're not going to have a traditional grid guide. We're going to kind of reinvent it, because how people want to watch TV is changing. I think what they're discovering is, what a lot of people have discovered is, well, yeah, that's changing, but I had cable for 30 some years, right? and I like that user interface, and I'm comfortable with it. So as cord cutting becomes mainstream, I find a lot of services like Sling TV here is launching a more traditional cable-esque guide in order to be more comfortable to people who are ditching cable. Now my question to you is, how important is that? How important is it that you have a more cable-esque traditional user interface versus what you have with like a Hulu or other services that are reinventing the wheel? Now, I think Hulu and Sling and the other companies who have reinvented the wheel at point have some really cool features there. But there's also that whole, like, it's my comfort zone, right? I've been using cable for 30 years. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. How important is that to you? What do you think about that? Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And lastly, on the My TV section, the little home screen on Sling, each row now has like a settings icon that's a little easier to find, and you are able to easily change things, dump clear history, and more. So some cool features, but I'd love to know how important a traditional guide is to you. All right, that's it for this week. I'm leaving right now as you're watching this for CES. I'll be there all next week. More videos, news, and tips, tricks, all about CES coming next week. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check us out over at corecarsnews.com. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.